This is 5 Minute Friday, where I break down cinematic lighting setups and scenes. Let's get into it. It's Gaffer Dan time. This is what I wear when I gaff. It's stylish. Reminds everyone that I'm not getting paid. And I've got everything I need right here to gaff things up. I've got my little screws and stuff. Got my little clamps. Usually I have a little bit more in here, but yeah, so if you're looking to get into gaffing, just know you're not gonna get paid. You can look good while you do it, but it's practical. So for this one, I went to my friend's garage to do a garage projector scene, kind of like It or The Fablemans, which I watched recently, and it was incredible. So if you haven't seen that movie yet by Spielberg, it is worth it. It's beautifully shot. If anything, just pay attention to the color and the lighting. It is absolutely immaculate. So going into it, I knew I wanted it to be like a nighttime moonlight, kind of teal green with some tungsten kind of lighting. My typical kind of go-to, that blockbuster style, a bit grungy, and that's what we did. So to make that happen, we went outside and I put an Aperture 300X up, which is the bicolor 300, which I highly recommend. I just got it, it's amazing. And I put the cone on there just to make it spot, and we shot it right down the center of the windows there. And I wanted to use those windows. It's part of the reason I like this garage. And I wanted to shoot some moonlight or a street light or some kind of light through it and get those rays once I hazed out the garage. And one side of the windows had those like 1x4 boards there, and those kind of created some shape, kind of covered it up, gave some texture. And for that light, I just set it to the coolest temperature possible at 6,500 Kelvin and 100% intensity. I went ahead and set up this awesome vintage projector that I thrifted a while back and ran some extension and put it on an old metal cart. So to key that projector, I took the F22C by Amaran, which is a 2x2 light mat, and I had that to a tealish kind of greenish hue on the HSI instead of using CCT. Tracking. Ooh. And I put that on a gobo arm from my C-stand, and then from the gobo arm I had a baby pin that went into the back of the F22, which enabled me to give a nice top-down light, and I put a half diffusion in there with a grid to keep it from spilling all over the scene. And at that point the background was a bit boring and dark besides the windows, so I put a Nanlite Pavo tube set to that same teal greenish color, and I gaffed that to the top of the pegboard there to make it seem like a practical, like just any old fluorescent tube kind of lighting someone's workbench. So we wanted it to feel like there was something there, like a workshop or a workbench. So we found a old door that we could mimic a workbench with, and to put it up there, I used a recycling bin that was laying around, and we just propped it up on there, and that was our workbench. So super ghetto, but that's how you use your surroundings to make it look more interesting and better. At that point, we just dressed up the workbench a bit with some tools, some pieces of wood laying around, and I noticed that it was very teal and green everywhere. The key, the windows, the tube light over the workbench, and then the only tungsten separation in the color was the beam from the projector. So I knew we needed some kind of practical on the workbench that would kind of give some more depth there, and so I went into my buddy's house and found just a desk lamp that had a tungsten bulb in it, and we threw that on the workbench to give it some more color depth. And then we noticed it was overpowering the beam of the projector, so we put a quarter step diffusion around the bulb in the lamp just to kind of soften it and keep it from overpowering the main focus of the scene. And honestly, I think I caught it by using false color, and I just want to give a quick tip. If you guys aren't using false color, you're wrong, because false color will tell you exactly how your image is exposed, and it'll teach you a lot about how it's going to color grade when you get to your computer. So checking the false color constantly during my setup helps me adjust levels, and that desk lamp I noticed was brighter than the source that we were focusing on, and I wanted all the attention of someone's eye to go to that projector, not the lamp in the background. So that told me that I need to bring it down, and it didn't have a dimmer or anything, so we put quarter step diffusion in, which brought the exposure down enough to where we could keep it in the background. It added to the image, but it didn't take away from the subject. And then after that, the only thing I noticed that it needed was a little bit of fill in the shadows, and of course I want the shadows to be a bluish teal, so I took my other Nanlite Pavo tube set it to like 8% intensity, gave a little bit of boost to the shadows, a little bit for levels, a little bit for color. And at that point, that was our setup. So to recap this whole lighting setup, we started off with house lights off, garage doors shut, nothing on, completely black. And then we added the Amaran F22C overhead as a key light for the projector. And then we added that Aperture 300X outside right in the middle with a cone spotlight on it at 100%. And then we put in a Nanlite Pavo tube in the background as a practical. And then we added the tungsten desk lamp as another practical. And lastly, we added a second Nanlite Pavo tube just to give some levels to the shadows. And of course, to top it all off, we hazed out the scene. I used my trusty Spirit Halloween fogger that is still not dead. If you've been following me for a while, you know that this thing has been my go-to. It was 60 bucks, it's never been cleaned, and it's still kicking. That was essentially our lighting setup for the rest of the evening. After that first shot, I threw Josh in to do some cool, like Fablemans kind of it garage scene things, and used him as my subject. We did a cool lighting setup with the workbench where he was sitting there working on some stuff. And it was basically the same thing with the F22 being an overhead key, kind of supplementing that practical over the workbench. We kept the windows the same. I still had one tube off frame to lift the shadows a bit. And then for Josh sitting in front of the projectors, we did the same setup with the F22 overhead, but the only difference was I had the second tube light on a tungsten color to match the beam of the projector, and that was used as a fill slash kind of key to make it seem like the projector was lighting his face more than it was. And this was our scene. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Cuts Clothing. So Cuts, as you probably know since you're watching this video, dominates the videographer, photographer, filmmaker, YouTuber space, influencer space, if you will. And they do that because their shirts are awesome. For me, I like to wear them when I know I'm gonna be on a long shoot because they're comfortable, they're breathable. Let's face it, I sweat a lot on set and I have to move in a lot of awkward, weird positions to get the shot. And the shirts are perfect for that. They have great breathability and they stretch well so I can move and operate the camera in the way I need to. And it's super comfortable while I'm doing it. It's not something that's distracting me while I'm filming. If you wanna look awesome and feel awesome next time you're filming, use my discount code Daniel W. Cunningham at checkout for 15% off, or you can use my link in the description below. Use the discount, guys. It is a pricey shirt, but for a really good reason, and you can get 15% off with my discount. Anyway, let's get back to this 5 Minute Friday. Alright guys, that's it for this 5 Minute Friday. I hope you enjoyed this really cinematic garage projector scene. Let me know down in the comments what I should do next if you have any suggestions or you want to see something specific or something different. I'm open to all suggestions. Shoot me a DM. I do my best to reply to all of them promptly. So love chatting with you guys. I appreciate you for watching and I'll see you next week.